Hello and welcome to episode 92 of Shockwaves. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Galluzzo. I'm sitting here with Mr. Elric Kane.
Yeah, man, we survived. We're ready to roll.
Good God, we did survive quite an ordeal. You'll have to tune in next week.
Yeah, to get the whole story.
Live from Chattanooga Film Festival to hear.
Live from, I guess, kind of. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is live from.
Live from the past, yeah.
There's vomit involved.
Good God, wait to hear the Kane stories.
It's crazy.
That's your
much
hook.
whiskey.
My witness to all this madness was Rebekah McKendry.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
They put us all in the same Airbnb, so it was like real world Shockwaves.
Totally.
And
so we should have went on Facebook Live.
I know.
That would have been
I think
interesting.
it just would have been like, Elric, are you done with the stove? You didn't wash your dishes, man. You didn't. So,
Yeah, we didn't do it. We should have done a mock, but it wouldn't have been the same without our other host.
That's true. Ryan Turek.
Clearly, the adult supervision.
Yeah, which is always needed.
Hey, I didn't. Oh, wait, I did break the ironing board. I didn't break it.
Oh, my God.
It wouldn't close.
Yeah,
I don't
like
think
chaos.
I broke it. Yeah,
we know
it
how
was
to
total
party.
chaos.
That's the thing. We know how to party.
Ryan would have kept us in line.
Puke and
Yeah.
ironing boards. That's all it was.
So welcome to episode 92. Lot to talk about. Obviously, we want to talk about what we saw at the festival, movies that we've all collectively seen, etc. I just want to bring up really quick, this weekend for people in Los Angeles is Monsterpalooza.
Yay!
Which is very exciting.
When are you
happens. I think I'm going to be there all weekend, actually. I have a pass for the weekend, but I am doing a presentation on a panel on Saturday at 2 p.m., showing trailers for all the Dread Central titles, Dread Central Presents, and then culminating with the premiere of the Director's Cut. Is the Penn Jillette Adam Rifkin movie, and Adam will join me on stage along with Missy Pyle, and we'll do a little thing there and sign posters. And then I believe Kane Hodder is going to be there he's there all weekend. But he is doing a presentation for his documentary, To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story, on Sunday.
I'll also do a quick event plug up at the top here. This weekend, my film, All the Creatures Are Stirring, is playing at the Phoenix International Horror and Science Fiction Festival.
And by the way, Bekah, congratulations.
Thank you.
For taking the Audience Award at the Chattanooga Film Festival.
Yes, it was very unexpected. I cried. I literally
It plays really well with an audience. It's
it was great hearing everybody laugh and really kind of receive it well. So yeah, it played great with both, screened twice there and played really well both times. And we're screening at the Phoenix International Horror and Science Fiction Festival this coming weekend. We're playing on Saturday and Sunday night. Saturday night is sold out, but there are still tickets available for Sunday.
That's great. That's great. And before we delve into films that we saw at the festival, because obviously we collectively were able to see a lot of things together, which is nice. I think we need to talk about A Quiet Place. Elric and I had several hours to kill on our last day on Monday, and so we went to the theater together and we're like, let's go see A Quiet Place before we head back to LA.
You also went to the greatest restaurant in Chattanooga,
Aretha Frankenstein's. Yeah.
Thank you.
Was quite wonderful. Wonderful pankakes.
So the fact that you got to do that and The Quiet Place, I'm jealous of, because my flight left at 4 a.m. and sucked.
Yeah, that does suck. Yeah. No, we were a little smarter back a little later out.
Well, the main thing we need to talk about is how A Quiet Place shall be the movie that all movie theaters will be constructed around.
They should.
Because we were at a really fancy theater.
We were at a great AMC
Beautiful
theater.
AMC, huge.
And man, did we hear a lot of that blockbuster movie that was right next door.
The first half of that movie, we could hear so
Ready
much
Player One?
of the action.
Just getting a little
maybe.
It could have been. It was
Probably.
better Black Panther, and it was.
Yeah.
It definitely did hurt it.
Yeah, sweeping score and action kind of just seeping in through the side. So as much as I enjoyed this film in the theater, this was actually the one time I was like, I kind of wish I was watching this at home so I can control the environment. It also makes you very aware of the audience because you could hear the person next to us crunching their popcorn and then making stupid observations.
Oh, she's pregnant. And you're like, yeah, no shit.
Elric and I were just like,
It also gives you an awareness of just how sick and diseased everybody is.
As I coughed off to the side.
I went to go see it a second time over the weekend, and it reminded me of that scene in Outbreak where everybody's sitting in the theater and you see that one person cough and you follow the germ molecule fly
That
through
water
the air.
vapor through the air into somebody else's nose.
Well, that said, sound issues aside.
No, let's just talk about construction.
Elric and I loved it. I think Elric did too. I think we had a great time regardless of that.
Yeah, it's a brilliantly crafted suspense film. And I don't know why I compare it to Hush, but I still kind of like Hush more. But only because I think it's a little weirder.
Yeah.
I think A Quiet Place is like perfect for a blockbuster. It's the perfect Hollywood blockbuster. It's exactly what you want. But like, you know how sometimes you just want that like slightly weird off quality as a horror fan.
Yeah.
Though they would still make a beautiful double feature. I mean, that'd be so much fun. Yeah. But yeah, just it's so well put together, and as it's even more suspense than horror. Really, it's like suspense sci-fi in many ways. But man, it has real setup and payoff, and leaves right at the right moment.
Yeah.
It's a movie. It doesn't overstay its welcome at all.
I'm sure a lot of people have probably already seen it, but just the very basic gist and why sound is such an important issue is because obviously there's no real explanation, but there are monsters out there, and they're attracted to sound, and so they've pretty much wiped everybody out. And so we're with a family, which is what's his name? John Krasinski of The Office, who also directed this and is great in it, along with his real life wife, Emily Blunt. And so they are a family trying to survive in this world. And so the majority of it revolves around how quiet everything is. And also one of their daughters is deaf. And so we kind of get that perspective going back and forth. But that's kind of it really does help suspense. And, you know, it'll be fun to talk to the Platinum Dew guys about that, or in particular Krasinski. The film that came to mind, which has nothing to do with it at all, and I know Elric will know this, is the French film Le Cercle Rouge, which is one of my favorite foreign films. And the reason being is because the film revolves around a heist, and there's a good 20-25 minute chunk where these characters are pulling off the heist, and it is all silence.
It's all processed, and it really pulls you in.
Yeah, and you literally lean forward, not realizing you're doing it, but it's just because you're waiting to hear something. And so that's what this movie does beautifully, is it really plays with sound in a way that just brings it to front and center, and
the family dynamics that are affected by not being able to really talk, by being able to talk openly. Instead, it becomes this thing. So they all have weird things around each other and emotional hangups. That's the part that's really engaging.
It's the emotional core, especially between father and daughter.
Really,
second time around, you can really start to kind of dig into the water cooler logic of it all. There are a lot more questions that are raised from the second experience where you're kind of like, why would you even do that? Or how could you effectively pull this off without creating sound? And, you know, once you kind of just sweep those under the rug and just allow yourself to have some fun with it. It is very well crafted.
Yeah, it's not perfect in that regard. Like I have a lot of issues with it. And also I guess like Elric said, I just wish there was a little more to it. It's pretty simple.
Well,
there's a few great set pieces. But I wish there's just a little more.
I would say next time you see it, pay attention to his basement, his sound room. There's a lot of clues and a lot of details throughout that give a little bit more insight into the monsters. There were a lot more things I picked up the second time around.
Oh, wow.
In terms of how our government responded to these things and what they tried to counteract and where they came from.
Is it true that it was developed at one point as a Cloverfield film or not?
I don't know. I didn't pay attention to those articles.
Okay.
I have enjoyed some of the articles. I have not seen it yet, but I have enjoyed some of the articles that have come out of it, like the major media saying, well, horror's back, or horror's the next big thing, or CNN had a thing
or
up
it's
like
not horror.
Horror's making some noise.
It's not horror.
So that part is nice, but then I've also enjoyed the online discussions about general day-to-day life. Like there was an entire long discussion about how do you fart?
Oh yeah, that's right.
If
That's
you
everyone's hang up,
And the fact that this movie made that discussion happen, I'm kind of like, or sneeze was another one I heard, or cough and things like that. How do you do these basic kind of functions where you can't stop the sound?
You don't, you die.
You die. So that's all there is.
Yeah, but that one was excellent.
And definitely a big screen. I mean, well, besides our experience on a big screen, I think in general a real great big screen, because it's just, you don't go to movies often where the audience is forced to fucking pay attention, forced to stay quiet. So it's interesting that way.
Yeah.
Also, a little trailer dropped this week that I think we need to discuss.
Oh, it's so amazing.
For a movie called The Meg.
Ghost on Meg?
Ghost on Meg.
Ghost on Meg.
The multi-million-dollar sci-fi movie.
It does not follow the book, or does not seem to follow the the book that closely, but goddamn, I'm excited about it. And that poster is just amazing. Like, I would put that in my living room.
No. It looks pretty out of control and ridiculous.
It looks exactly what it needs to be.
Yep.
I mean, it is the same kind of feeling I got from watching the trailer for Piranha 3D.
Yep.
It was like, okay, tongue is in cheek. We're going to have a blast with this. As long as you deliver on giant shark action, then I'm sold. And I was sold.
Cheesy shark action, bad action lines.
Oh, God.
You know.
Yeah, the whole the Mariana Trench. That, you know, they're like, it is the deepest trench ever, but we've gone further. And it's like, oh, my God, you're explaining all of this stuff for me right ahead.
As soon as
the megalodon is the largest shark in prehistoric history. Okay, thank you.
As soon as Jason Statham said something like, chew on this, I was like, I'm so in. That's all I need.
And also, it's your favorite director, Bekah, the director of the National Treasure movies.
I know.
John Turteltaub in the house.
Wow.
Dave,
it's like your dream.
Once we saw the trailer, Dave walked in and I was watching it and he was like, it's literally like God made you a movie. And I'm like, I know, right?
And by the way, and your husband Dave is in it, sort of.
Kind of,
There's this great shot of a newspaper clipping of a is it a fisherman?
It's a fisherman inside these megalodon jaws, and literally Josh Forbes messaged me and it was like, this looks just like Dave, and it does.
Yeah,
it's like identical to Dave. Wow. So apparently he's in the movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it'll be fun. But it got me thinking, it's like, I guess Jaws has ruined shark movies. Like, you can't get better or more serious than that, I guess.
Well, it's the same principle that I try to apply to, you know, the kind of slasher genre. It's like, I'm here hustling, trying to find possibly a great, scary, horrifying, realistic slasher film. Because after Scream, everybody just wants to put tongue in cheek and have a good time with it. And I feel like that's kind of like the same thing with Shark. It's like put your mind to it.
Yeah,
you could probably deliver.
The Shallows was pretty serious.
Yeah,
like
the Shallows,
it had some ridiculous things that happen in the CGI. But she's pretty good, and the mood of it is meant to be.
And there were moments in 47 meters down that I was like, okay, that's generally terrifying.
Yeah. But you are right. Like, once they go satire, it's hard to.
I need
reverse.
to watch 47 meters down again.
It's fun.
I do love that movie.
It is just fun.
It's not bad. And then so we were at Chattanooga Film Festival, and Bekah's movie premiered. So Elric and I got to see that. That was my second time seeing it, which was lovely.
I heard you talk about it at the top of the next one.
But what about, I guess Elric and I went and caught William Friedkin's new documentary, The Devil and Father Amorth, which was a lean, 65
It's like 65 minutes,
it's really
barely
short.
a feature.
It feels like more like one of his investigative journalism things you'd see on a Friday night where he just walks towards camera and goes, what is the soul? I'm William Friedkin. What is the devil? It's pretty cool.
So that part's amazing.
Yeah, I love all
he kind of hosts it because he's like, I'm William Friedkin, and I directed The Exorcist. Yeah. And now he's basically, it's a documentary of him filming and tracking a real life exorcism
with the father who has done the most exorcisms in the world.
Yes, which
is he's like 91, 92 years old.
Father Amorth from the title. And so I don't know. Me and Elric were like pumped because it's scary, this and that. I was extremely mixed on this.
See, I thought it was super interesting.
It was interesting, but I was very mixed and called me very skeptical because I felt like there wasn't really a lot to it, and there was a lot more questions raised than anything because he hosts it. Then you see the exorcism, and so the exorcism is like 30 minutes long.
And it's pretty much real time. He's the first person to ever be allowed in with a camera. No camera crew was allowed, just him.
It was just him.
And a camera.
Only camera, yeah.
But it's real time, so I think it's super, as you keep watching it, I think it's super interesting in that just fascinating, like, I've never seen this process.
Right.
And it's very, it's a different kind of exorcism than what we would think of from his movies. And he talks about that. He's like, this isn't like the ones from my movies. This is like how it plays out. Right. And with a lot of her family in the room praying for her and the father on the,
I mean, you get into the vibe of it once it's happening, but like from the second she spoke, like my first inclination was like, all right, so what effect did they put on her voice? That's not her real voice. And he never did, like, you'd think as a filmmaker who made The Exorcist, he'd afterwards be like, I just want you to know that we did not manipulate the audio. But no, it doesn't happen. And so I had a tough time buying it.
Yeah.
But then again,
but he shows it to all these neurosurgeons and stuff, and they're all like, I've never heard that sound come out of a human. The neurosurgeons are what made it for me, because the second half, after we watched the real-time extra, has all these, like the head of UCLA, surgical, like some of the best in the world, and they're all just trying to articulate. And there's this great Israeli surgeon who's kind of just like, he basically verbalized what I was thinking, which is, no, this is real. It's real to her. It's real to the priest. It's real to the people in the room, because of their belief structure and how this is like to them going in for neurosurgery. They believe in it that much. So her reactions are coming from that part, a real place. Whether there's really a demon, he has no idea. And so it's fascinating when you see that power of belief. So even if things were manipulated, I don't think the situation's manipulated. I think we are watching people going through a real, whatever that is.
So does Friedkin present it, like I've seen exorcism documentaries before, and it's always either kind of siding with, yes, exorcism's real, there really is a demon, or they're likely insane, but everyone believes it, or is it somehow straight down the middle?
He's presenting a balanced thing, but he definitely, in my opinion, believes in it. I think he's come to that place in his life where, but he presents all sides. It's not. I don't think it's trying to push you one. No. But there's a sequence where they don't have on camera where he is more or less pushing you.
Like,
more like the horror movie moment. But it's totally entertaining, and it's so short. Everyone has to watch it because it's like you're never going to get to see an exorcism.
And again, I was like, oh god, I just love Friedkin on camera, like because he's like Alfred Hitchcock and Alfred Hitchcock presents. He's just that character, you know. The interesting things about this movie that I want to bring up, because we love. Well, first of all, we got to bring up your airplane pitch, because the woman in the film is an Italian woman named Christina.
She's really scary in it because she's she's really
who the hell is Christina? And then we saw either her or her doppelganger
on our plane.
It was like the woman looked exactly like her. Yeah. And so you and I are sitting on the plane, and what did you come up with?
I just turned to him and I go, "Exorcist on a plane."
Yeah, I'm like, hey,
like who does not want to watch a film about it? All the passengers getting possessed.
And all the passengers. Yeah, we started pitching each other.
Could be jumping from person to person, and you don't know who it is in the seat. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, almost better than Predator Purge, but not quite.
Not quite. But
Ryan's eyes can light up.
When you have hours to kill on a flight, these are the things
she really did look like her.
This is 13B.
Yeah. But it was creepy when this person walked on.
Oh my god! It's in the pilot. It's in the pilot. I totally can see this.
And here's
guys.
the other thing. So of course, as soon as I got home, as most people do when they watch one of these like documentaries or histories or whatever specials, I went online and immediately tried to find everybody involved. Like, let me read about the father and whatever happened to Christina and listen to that. And so I got the Wikipedia page for the father, and the most interesting thing on here is under controversies, it says views on Harry Potter and yoga.
Well,
Amorth was one.
How do you have controversial views on yoga?
I don't know, but Amorth was one of the voices that made public warnings to parents about J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter novels, stating that the books attempt to make a false distinction between black and white magic when the distinction does not exist because magic is always a turn to the devil.
Well,
so that is a true exorcist.
I've got 2 books written by him that are in my office.
Oh yeah, he wrote a couple books.
Yeah, you should take a look at them. They're fascinating.
Who wrote the book?
Father Amorth.
Oh, because there's another guy at the start who writes the book on the Prince of Darkness one.
Oh,
and at the very start opens just by going, you shouldn't make those movies like The Exorcist, because that's what's keeping these things alive and keeping the
cool.
And it's super intense.
Let's keep doing it, guys.
So this is our last podcast. We are going to do the God Squad.
This is like an incantation that we're doing now.
It is a
sweet
black art.
Sounds way more dangerous if we think of it like that.
That's the black arts.
Wow.
Do we go to November next?
Let's go to November. Oh,
have you heard of November, Ryan?
I have.
Holy smokes.
All of us decided to go check out November at like noon on a Sunday.
Well, and partly because I'd heard from Matt Barone, who runs the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival, a year ago. He said the best thing he saw this year was a film called November. I didn't know what the context. I thought it was like The Witch or something. From what he was kind of saying, I had no idea the tone. So I kept telling you guys,
February.
Hey, we got to see November. If we don't miss it, we might never come out.
It was the one and only time it was playing
played
during
one time.
the festival. So all of us made a point to go.
And it's in terms of tone, it is completely fascinating because it goes from absurdist comedy to bizarre, not really ever scary, but like
it's
super unsettling
scary,
at times and strange.
It's unsettling. It's got this kind of folklorish quality.
Did you like it?
I enjoyed it while I was watching it. I will never forget it.
What was you gave us a great Dick Gruner quote right after. You compared it to a movie that
it's a movie. I love Valerie and her Week of Wonders.
I love
it's got
Valerie.
that, but he bought it on Criterion, having heard me talk about it. And after he watched it, he just came over and goes, "Hey, you can have this." he didn't say whether he liked it.
But that's kind of exactly how I feel about November, because I don't know if I would have watched this at home by myself, but because I was in a theatrical setting, and it basically, mean, it's what country is this from?
Estonia.
Which I'd never seen an Estonian film. I don't believe.
And here's the thing: the tone is so. I mean, like literally for the 2 days after this, I could bring up any scene in the 2-hour running time that is so freaking bonk. We were just like, remember like that
scene where the guy ate the soap? Or
remember the guy was eating the soap because a woman like bathed in it that he was in love with? Or the guy baked a loaf with his shit and sweat in it?
Yeah.
Or that weird wheel of bones that became a helicopter and took a cow?
It's really got some of the
when
most
the guy
incredible
talked to the
visuals.
snowman about love for
But
an hour.
it's also one of the best looking films you'll ever see.
Yeah, it was
it's
gorgeous.
photographed just like stunningly. It's just totally unique and one of a kind. And
So the whole setup, well, it almost, and I had to think about, like, and again, this is not a film I will watch again, but I will never stop thinking about it. It functions almost like an anthology film where you are seriously watching the stories of about 6 different people, because you're watching what's going on in the manor house, and then you're watching the young man, and then you're watching the girl. But
the events are still always tied to her.
They're tied
It's a love
back.
story. Yeah.
But you're watching all of these different stories, and then they're kind of all tied back to her. But there's really, like, we establish her as the protagonist, but that said, we do not spend the bulk of the film with her. We spend it with these other characters. But the whole kind of setup of it is this whole mythology of the Krat. And the Krat, and I'm really paraphrasing this because I don't speak Estonian, is you construct a whole bunch of tools together to kind of look like a being.
A vessel of some sort.
And then you go to these crossroads and this kind of bacchanalian god appears. You sign away your soul and he will therefore put a soul into your Krat.
Yeah.
And the Krat will work for you, but if you ever stop giving the Krat jobs to do, it will kill you. And this is kind of
the Krat won't kill you. Your soul will go to the guy.
To the guy.
Yeah, in the Book of Blood.
And this is the backdrop of it.
Come on, get it.
It's true. I know. There was a lot. And one of the things that, and again, this was me thinking days later, there is so much witchcraft established in this book because we've got the Krat mythology, then we've got a witch who's casting love spells, then we've got this kind of shapeshifter girl who's able to turn into animals. But yet they all go to church, but never once do we see hide nor hair of Jesus.
Well, there's one shot with blood on him. Right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he bleeds.
He's bleeding.
The statue.
Bleeding,
yeah, he bleeds.
I mean, look, this is almost. I'm sure this is incoherent nonsense. Everything we're saying to you,
which is pretty much the movie.
Well, I wouldn't call it nuts, but I think it's constricted from their point of view. I think it seems like they've tied together all these obviously mythology of their culture that we don't know about. You know,
but I guess what I'm saying is it's impossible to describe.
Yeah,
it's
yes.
definitely something you just have to experience and go with it, and you will never see anything quite like it.
But you will see it because Oscilloscope have it, and their title came up front, so it will come out in some way.
They will. And also, by the way, the German Baron, is Dieter Laser.
Yeah, okay.
He was
the one recognizable
what
face.
do we know him from?
Human Centipede.
Oh.
I kept thinking it was an older thing, like something like a Paul Marcy. Blood from
I
Dracula.
kept saying he looked like Udo Kier, like an older Udo Kier. But
Yeah, he's good in it. He's got a great look.
he
on it.
is. He's creepy.
It's totally fascinating. If you're into those kind of crazy visions, you'll dig it.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And then me, Bekah, I think all of us also saw Ghost Stories, which I believe, Ryan, you talked about a couple episodes.
Yeah, and I still don't know
great.
what I feel about it.
Oh, really?
I don't
liked
either.
it.
I don't.
This was the one that everyone kept pushing. That like, oh, you have to see it. It's really good. It's really solid. Elric saw it a day before me, and you pretty much loved it.
I love it. It's so hard to talk about without spoilers, but kind of where it lands, I don't necessarily love that. But it's interesting. But I love the stories. The stories are freaking great.
Well,
And
it's not the ending that you expect from the setup that's there,
exactly.
which is this debunker of the paranormal, sets out on this journey because this other guy,
had influenced him.
Spoiler. But it's not where you expected it to go.
I wonder. I think it'd probably be really interesting to see a second time because if I know the information, I bet you I'll probably see it in a different. But either way, I just want to look at it like from the experience of experiencing a horror film. Is one of my favorites in theaters for the moment for each story. I just loved each story.
Yeah, and I guess we should emphasize, even though it's you're following one character who is a ghost debunker. I mean, that's the thing. The idea and the into this movie is so freaking good.
It's very promising.
It's basically an anthology because you are getting 3 different ghost stories, but you are following one character who sets up this guy and basically tells him, you are the debunker to, these are the ones I can never solve. So it's up to you. And so you go into each story and there's some great suspense and scare set up in all of them.
Oh, yeah. And the greatest line of the whole year.
Oh, yeah, which killed.
We didn't even see it in the same one, and he knew exactly what we were talking
about. It killed in my screening
There's a line,
as well.
there's a line in the second skit that literally had the entire audience laughing. So it's really solid in that regard. I agree with Ryan. I border on hating the ending. Because basically, obviously, they tell you these 3 stories, and then they try to do they try to resolve it, which again, I don't want to spoil. You need to see it. And I don't know how I felt about it. I'm like, okay, I get that, but man, everything else was so good.
It feels like it's from a different movie. It feels like it's from a very different movie, and there's just an emotional resolution that you don't get. And I don't know how I feel about that because it's handled very well. And
it's beautifully made.
Yeah.
Beautifully made. It's well acted, but I don't know.
But everyone needs to see it. I think it's one of those horror films that you'll all enjoy the actual. Because some of them are like bothered. The guy going around with the flashlight and the
so good. Such a cool premise.
Yeah, really.
No, I'm approaching the ending very much like I did Tag, where I did not like the ending to Tag at all, but the ride to get there was so good. I'll reprieve you for the last 10 minutes.
For me, this was definitely going to be in my top 10 at the end of the year, just in terms of the experience of watching the movie.
Yeah.
But I agree. I'm not in disagreement at all about the ending. I definitely took me back a bit, and we don't want to spoil it for anyone. So.
And I think this one's already out in the UK, but it's coming out here April 20th, I think, at the end of the month.
Yeah, and somebody next to me who saw it said he had seen the stage play of it in England and said it's just incredible. He says, like, when they do the car thing, it's like a car on stage and you're watching it.
Wow.
He just said it's like, I mean, he loved the movie too, but he was just like very fascinating. Wow. I'd love to have seen that.
Terrific.
But great movie.
Oh boy! Did you catch anything else?
Yeah, I saw Dementia 2, which I talk about next show. But I'll say it's a trip. Like I had, and I honestly was not a fan of the first Dementia. But what Mike Teston and Matt Mercer literally shot Dementia Part 2 in 5 days. It has nothing to do with Dementia Part 1. They just decided to keep the title with it. And it's literally 3 people in one house, and the setup and the payoff, it's so good. It feels very much like a low budget Dead Alive. And so I had a blast with it. So I'm just
I think I talked to the director of that more than anyone this weekend, Mike Teston, a really nice guy.
Yeah, Mike's
cinematographer
great.
as well. But
so yeah, I saw that one, and then the night, literally, like I was leaving at 4 a.m. And at midnight I was still watching The Ranger.
Oh yeah, I was there too.
Which I went to see, which is a lot of fun for parts, and then it gets really dark.
But see, I thought once it went dark is when it became fun, because it was like it becomes kind of a comedy.
Exactly,
dark comedy. It's not really horror.
And I was wondering if that was just me, because I was so annoyed by the punk characters that when they started dying, I was almost cheering for the Ranger.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't on the side of the punks in the first act at all. Besides the lead girl, they're not likable. But once the Ranger comes in, he's kind of like a funny maniac cop.
Yeah,
yeah. It's kind of hard to come back from the sin that they commit at the very beginning of the movie. It's just like, okay, if you guys all deserve what you're going to get,
right? It's tough.
And then when they were like painting trees and shit, that's a no in my book. You don't fucking paint trees. But yeah, like they were just generally assholes through the whole movie. So though, they were obviously supposed to be kind of our protagonists, but when he started killing him, I was like, this just got, like, it made it
because he has good one-liners.
Yeah.
He's pretty
Psycho
funny.
Cop. It reminds me of Psycho
you're right.
Cop.
You're right. It's more in line with Psycho Cop.
Very much in line with Psycho Cop.
But he's funnier, this guy, But, it's a fun set, and it's a good movie to watch at a festival late, too. Like, it definitely kept your attention. It has amazing opening credits.
Oh, my gosh, the opening credits are phenomenal. And the audience was howling.
Yeah.
So there were definitely a lot of people that it was really, really hitting with.
Speaking of movies that'll keep you awake, I believe you might have seen this one, Ryan, and I talk about it a little bit on the next one, but man, I want to encourage you guys. Revenge is a fun.
I love Revenge.
Revenge is like so good. I explained I saw it right after we watched 3 hours of Joe Bob talking about how everything's exploitation, and then I went straight into this, and I was like, oh my god, every element you could exploit in a movie, they do it, but they do it with a bit of a twist and a slightly different mission. In the last 20 minutes, the way they shoot the last 20 minutes of this movie is so freaking fun, and that's why I kind of threw some 10 to Midnight love at it. There's a couple other good movies, but it's just really fun. It's cool that's coming to Shudder. That's when I think people are going to have a blast with, especially if you're put off by the idea of a rape revenge film. I think what you can look forward to is a slightly different viewpoint. It's still gross at times, and it has to be because you're meant to be. But then when it keeps going, just stick with it because it's
when the control of power shifts, that's when it becomes an audience pleaser.
Yeah, it's really.
Well, I love here in Los Angeles at the end of the month. There's a 4-movie marathon that starts with Revenge, The Descent.
On 35 with Neil Marshall.
With Neil. Mad Max Fury Road, the Chrome edition.
Which I haven't watched yet.
And then closing out with Aliens.
Oh my gosh.
This is at the Arrow.
It's for Cinema
in Santa Monica on April 28th.
I wouldn't stay for Aliens at that point because I'd just seen it too, but the other ones, man.
I would go to Descent in 35.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
And with Neil. And it actually has a little bit of a vibe of those in terms of its intensity. It's probably my favorite thing I saw at the festival, if I'm really honest. And and just in terms of like boldness, it's like I was explaining to them, it's exactly like when I saw Roar, where it's like whatever you make next, I'm in. From the style of this film.
Corley is definitely a vision.
Yeah, and she's actually going to be at that screening, the director.
Oh, cool.
So
Very
Revenge
cool.
too. So that's even more reason if you're out there.
Did you see The Endless?
I'd already seen it at Tribeca.
Oh, I saw it at the festival.
A while back, yeah.
Really, I loved it.
Can you talk about it without spoilers?
I
That's
can't.
the question.
I can't.
No,
All I'm going to say is just like it was very fun to watch. I enjoyed how trippy it was,
and it furthers the mythos of those two directors.
Yes, there's mythos.
And they're going to be coming on the show at some point, so we can probably dive in deeper by then. But it's a well-made film. It's fun.
I also saw the other premiere there was the WOLFMAN'S GOT NARDS, which is the Monster Squad documentary.
Which I've been told I was in, but I didn't get to see.
We are both in it.
Oh, that's awesome.
I believe they tried to get Ryan, but he was too busy apparently. Or schedule conflicts, if you will. Yeah. I thought this was really excellent. I mean, it really. I mean, I guess you could enjoy it if you don't know what the Monster Squad is. There'd be a curiosity, but it really is aimed straight for the kid in you that grew up with this movie. And I thought the thing that was most fascinating about it, because it goes through the whole kind of history, like how everybody got involved, how they produced it, what happened after, and then it, of course, becoming a cult hit. And Andre Gower, who played Sean, the main character, is a big part of this documentary as well. But what's really great, I mean, they got pretty lengthy interviews with both Shane Black, I'm sorry, I drew a blank there for a second, Shane Black and Fred Decker. And Fred was not keen to do it, really. They got him at the last minute. And what's great about that is that his interview is so raw and candid. His thoughts on this movie. And it's and I never realized that, but it's funny because they show a montage of like, the resurgence and all these reunion shows and like kind of that. And in every photo of those, you see Fred and he just doesn't look happy at any of them. Mm-hmm. And he's very candid. He's like, this is the best movie I've ever made, but it's hard. I can't separate what the experience made me feel with, like, he gives all these analogies. Like, it's like, shooting for that hoop that you're going to slam dunk in 86 and it doesn't land until 2006. Like, it doesn't really do me any good. He's like, I just can't, I love that people love it, but I can't see past that ever.
It's like Carpenter's thing, I think.
Yeah. And so I thought that angle was really interesting amongst so many people that it meant a lot to, and kind of celebrating and talking about it. So it's a lot of fun. It just started its festival run. I'm sure it'll be out hopefully later this year, but a great love letter if you just love the Monster Squad. Totally worth it.
Yeah.
Are you guys up to date on The Terror, the show?
Oh my gosh, I am.
No, I haven't. I've got a slew of things I want to talk about movie-wise, but I have to catch up on Terror.
Yeah, I'm past.
What?
Because I loved the first episode of The Terror.
Bekah Future Past? What's happening?
Future Past. I have completed the entire series.
What?
Because, yes, I know. I loved the first episode so much. I watched the first episode and was like...
You stole from Thailand?
Ryan's throwing caps at me. No, so...
How many are there? Because I'm on 4.
I'm on... I think there were 7 or 8. I finished
the whole 7 episodes?
Thing. Yeah, it's not that long. I finished the whole thing.
It's only one big book. So.
I thought it was 10.
It might be 10. I watched them all like back to back. I watched them all in like 3 days.
Back to how you got these.
How did you watch them all?
You sign up for AMC Premiere. And seriously,
so
it was just like it was like
Premiere?
an app that I got through my Roku, and for $4.99, I got the entire series in one lot, and so I binge watched the whole thing in 3 days. It's amazing. I loved it.
I don't know if there's 10 episodes, but you know that you finished a show.
I just kept playing, dude. I don't know. It was just continuous.
I mean, it's still slow run. Like, even episode 3 had quite a bit of horror, and then 4 kind of had none. And so I was like, it keeps teasing a little. Right. But I'm really into it. Like, I'm just curious where it's going to go.
Yeah, I'm really into. I loved it, and I loved the tone, and even I can't say that it ever gets it never feels like it turns into a full out horror movie, but it's always really terrifying and tense.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I absolutely loved where it went.
Man, I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah, $4.99 a month. You can get AMC Premiere, and I plan to cancel after a couple of months, but I was going to play around with it because there's a couple other shows on there that I like, but that was the incentive. For signing up, you receive this all in one swoop. So I was like, for $5, I'll watch it all at one time because I was so jonesing after the first episode. Yeah.
Damn.
Ryan, what do you got for
I paid $24.95 for a whole season on iTunes.
$4.99. You get the whole enchilada.
I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I'm all caught up on Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Oh, right on.
And I think it's delightful.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I think it's they brought in the Knights again, and I was like, oh God, guys, what are you doing? But they wound up paying that whole thing off, and I'm very curious to see where they go with it. But it's fun. If this season ends up being the last season, then I'll be completely satisfied.
Right? It's kind of at that point where.
Yeah.
But the one gag I wanted to bring up was the
baby in the.
Well, we
body?
already talked about the baby in the body.
The baby in the body is
typical Evil Dead nonsense. The way that Ash decides to capture a baby and bring it back is fairly. Let's just say he puts it where it came from.
You know what's funny is watching.
Well, Bekah, that could be complicated.
I know.
Because there's many ways.
There's many ways to remove a baby.
The fun thing is the kid pops by the living room every time Sierra and I are watching it, and she'll come in and she'll laugh at Bruce Campbell.
Yeah,
and she's just like, and I'm like, honey, you can sit down. I mean, like, you'll love Ash.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy Ash. So Ash is reaching
Evil Dead 2
No.
So you gotta get her caught up.
I showed her Army of Darkness when we first became a family, and I think she liked it. But I mean, like, now that she's becoming a little bit more aware teenager, she seems to. Ash is obviously reaching a completely different generation now.
Yeah,
so
that is kind of cool
with his stupidity.
Yeah, and he is stupid.
Well, the funny thing is, we had this in joke in the family where I introduced the girls to toasted Pop-Tarts.
Oh, yes.
They had no idea.
But
so
that's
literally,
what you're supposed to do with them.
That night, we pop in Ash versus Evil Dead, and his daughter makes Ash a toasted Pop-Tart, and he goes, oh, they're so much better toasted. He's like, I didn't know that. I was like, oh my God, what is this?
How many people in the world do not know that you're supposed to toast Pop-Tarts? That's crazy.
I think we're about to find out half our audience.
Jesus Christ,
Wait,
guys.
they go in the toaster?
And what you do, friends of listeners of Shockwaves, you threw a little butter on the frosting. And
But doesn't that make
delicious.
your toaster catch on fire?
No, Bekah,
after
you
you
put
pull it out.
Oh, okay.
And then it melts on it while it's hot.
pull out and
the
then
way
you
you do
I thought you were
toast.
using it
You
to
pull out and then you butter it.
I thought you were like browning the Pop-Tart with the butter, so I was thinking of it much more of like a saute in the toaster.
Auntie M.
I'll drop a couple titles really quick.
Sure.
Because I got sick one day. So what do you do when you're sick? You watch Warlock movies. So I bought the Warlock trilogy thanks to Vestron.
How far have you gone? Because
I got the 2.
I'll tell you, I like 2, but I've started Warlock 1 like 10 times.
Really?
And I can't make it like 10 minutes in, and I'm like,
oh, Warlock's a blast.
That was like a
really?
breeze for me. I mean, it's a lot of running around at a farm for a stretch, but
well, that was the thing, that when they get to the farm incident, you think it's the end of the movie. They're building up to the great showdown with the Warlock, and then the Warlock shows up, and then another 30 minutes of movie keeps going, and you're like, oh my God, come on. So Warlock was never one of those films that I cherished as a teenager, but I have a newfound appreciation for it just because everybody goes for it. Everybody just
fun.
Julian Sands just goes for it. Everybody in the cast just goes for it. Warlock 2 is a fucking mess.
yeah. See, and that's what I liked.
I never liked Warlock.
But I was 12 when it came out, so what do I know?
There was a great moment. I forgot who they got. You got the the captain from Lethal Weapon, and he's playing this kid's dad, and he's trying to track somebody down, and there's literally a scene where he's being, I think it's him, and it's being tortured, and someone's like, give me the stone. He's like, you can't have the stone. The guy goes, give me the stone. He goes, you can't have the stone. He goes, give me the stone. I'm like, how long is this going to keep going?
Is it not a ring? It becomes a stone?
I don't know.
Because in the first one, it's the ring.
Well, they were going after multiple stones for various reasons because there are slayers of warlocks.
I guess they had to build the mythology out more.
It's just garbage.
The last one, Leaving Las Vegas, is super creepy. the opening scene where he's it's Warlock cutting Elizabeth Shue's butt as a pimp, and it always freaked me out because it's like it's Warlock. It's how it opens. Like the movie opens with Julian Sands cutting her with a razor blade, and super creepy. But I kept thinking it's Warlock.
Yeah.
Anyway, so watch them in that order.
Oh God, Las Vegas.
That is totally
I couldn't get to Warlock 3, so I threw on Godzilla vs. Megalon, which is...
Which one is this?
The 1970s, right?
This is a 73, and I realized that this is one of my favorite Godzilla movies, like ever, because it was during that kind of... Godzilla is a live-action Saturday morning cartoon character, and in this one, you've got this undersea world that is going to wage war on people who are on land because of nuclear testing, and they're really pissed off. But no one thinks in the undersea world, well, hey, maybe we should just kind of go up to the land people and say, hey guys, we're down here. Could you not bomb us anymore? But instead, they send Megalon to basically incite war, and then Godzilla comes along, and he's like, hey, guys, can you not do that, please?
In that voice.
Yeah. He's like, come on. Voice. And then meanwhile, you've got these two inventors and their kid. I don't know exactly what the dynamic is, but they created this robot that goes by the name of Jet Jaguar.
That's a great name.
Jet Jaguar can grow to Godzilla size. And so you've got Godzilla and Jet Jaguar taking on Megalon, but then another monster comes in. I forgot. Oh, I'm blanking on the name. But he comes in. So you got like these three kaiju plus a robot, all duking it out. And it's just one of those movies that I remember being on WPIX Channel 11, and I was a kid, and it was just Godzilla acting like a human sometimes. Like he would like wave, and he'd just be like, hey, I'm over here. Or he would like give Jet Jaguar kind of hand signal instructions of like, hey, I've got this.
They're
I'm going to take them out.
In a photo.
They're shaking hands in a photo. Yeah. That's at the very end when he was like, thank you very much for your service. It is such a beautiful film. I love it so much.
This is the Godzilla that with innocent eyes. The innocent eye Godzilla.
And I think that is why I like it. He's got kind of a snout like a cat, and he's got these innocent eyes.
Yeah.
So interesting thing about this movie, and I don't know how I remember this, like this is what replaced calculus in my brain years ago. When this film was sold in, I want to say Scandinavia or certain parts of Europe, they sold it under the title King Kong and Godzilla Have a Date in Tokyo. And so for a large chunk of the world, that is the title that it was released under. Godzilla and King Kong Have a Date in Tokyo.
Wow.
And so I always remember that title.
A poster with that title would be badass.
And King Kong's not actually in the movie.
But it's probably a guy who looks like it.
There's no King Kong. Yeah. And then the poster, Rob's got it pulled up, but it's basically got Megalon and Godzilla duking it out on top of the World Trade Center towers.
As they should.
Yeah, seriously.
That's pretty cool. It's great art for this, yeah.
And then the other title I just want to bring up, I watched Unearthed and Untold, The Path of Pet Cemetery. Because I'm about to embark on the Michael C. Hall audio version of Pet Cemetery.
Which it just came out, right?
Which I've heard is kind of amazing.
I'm really excited for that. So I thought as a fan doc, it was very well done. Everybody that needed to be represented was represented. Every once in a while, there would be kind of, no offense to the participants, but there would be kind of one random person. I had no idea who the heck they were. They were obviously like friends of the director and just needed to kind of, Rob, you and I know this. We just to kind of fill in some, hey, just say this. Yeah. Just say that they found this location through, lucky means. But it's very well done. It's very well done. Some great, cinematography.
How long is it, though?
Hour and it's like 90 minutes.
I'm always like, this is not to knock them at all, and I think these same filmmakers are actually doing one on the 1990 It right now, which I will of course watch the shit out of. Yeah. But isn't it funny how like this Pet Cemetery really deserve a full length documentary about it? Like it's the thing now, right? Like when we did it, we were doing Scream and Psycho, franchises. Yeah.
I will say there were things that I learned.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that the film was born of the writer's strike. Paramount needed something that was ready, had a filmmaker, and they just kind of pushed that through right away. There was one executive who fought to make Pet Cemetery somewhere else. Then she bounced over to Paramount, and then she fought to make it there. They shot down the prospect. Writer's strike happened. She was like, guys, this is ready to go. And they were like, okay, great.
Do they touch on Pet Cemetery 2 at all?
No. I think they just lead up to the opening of Pet Cemetery, the opening and then the worldwide box office. And
with that history, I love, it's like a movie they didn't want to make. They do it because of the writer's strike. It does so well that they bring, was it Mary Lambert? They bring her back within a year to do the sequel with Edward Furlong, who's hot off Terminator 2. To me, that's a funny story or an interesting story at least.
Unless I missed that part. I watched it kind of in chunks because I was like, I can't sit down and watch the whole thing. So I watched it in chunks, but it's really well done. I mean, you got both the kind of fan perspective, the industry perspective, and then the locals. I mean, Pet Cemetery was production that was integral to Maine. Like Stephen King fought to shoot that in Maine. So what I thought was really cool is they tracked down even just like the periphery characters, like the woman who was at the car rental desk, and the girl that played little Tasha Yar from Star Trek Next Generation.
Yeah,
just like all that kind of stuff. So it was
I wonder
very
if
well
they'll
done.
shoot the new one in Maine. I wonder if that means. I guess I'll just leave that one up to the cosmos. That'll be next year, probably. That film, right? Not this year.
Next year, it's dated for next year.
Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to that because the creators.
But I watched this on Shudder, and I guess it's coming out to Blu-ray.
I think Synapse Films is doing it. I think,
nice.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Cool. Was that it for you, man?
I also rewatched it and Blade and Child's Play.
Oh,
What are we, Letterboxd?
Your brief thoughts?
3 stars, 2 stars. I'm done.
So this is what happened with Blade. So we popped on the last episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead, and it said, "Newly arrived Blade," and I was like, honey, we got to watch the first 10 minutes of Blade because it just gets me so hot. And then we watched it, and she
That's
goes,
foreplay. First 10 minutes of Blade.
It's so good. And then she's like, I kind of need to watch the whole thing. I'm like, I do too. And we just sat there and rewatched all of Blade, and it's so good.
That's a fun movie.
It
It is so good. It holds up so well. And I love Guillermo del Toro, and I love Blade 2, but I kind of love the first Blade more.
Wow.
I'd have to see them back to back.
Yeah,
I mean, like, Blade 2 has more of the
kind of horror,
weapon.
kind of
mythos,
eye candy
vampire,
and visual
It's more
style.
elegant, but the first
But
one is a
Steve
pretty
Norrington's
damn fun,
Blade is gritty as fuck. It has just a bad temper about it.
And how much do you want to
It's
see that
just-
Blade and a good Ghost Rider in the same world? Like
Oh
a
my
dark
God.
world,
That sounds
not done in the
amazing.
comic booky way.
I
that
mean-
they-
I
I'd
can't
kill for
remember what
that.
it was. I went to a screening of some sort, and it was all effects guys, and one of them introduced me to their friend Steve.
Yeah.
I started talking to him, and he was really cool, and then I realized it was Steve Norrington.
Yeah.
And I said, I was like, dude, I got to get you on my podcast. He's like, anytime, man, anytime. So I'm
let's
gonna
get
have
him
to,
on. Let's do it.
I'm gonna have to
let's
follow
do it.
up on that because he also left the business over, what was it, League of Extraordinary
Yeah, because he
Gentlemen.
got in a fight with
Connery.
Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Didn't they look? Wasn't it like a physical fist fight? I think
I
they got
remember
into a fist
hearing
fight.
I think
Oh
they
my
both
gosh.
that was
Weirdly
Connery's
enough, I didn't even
last
hate that. I remember seeing in theaters going, that's
Yeah,
kind of
kinda
fun.
like that.
I know it was a mess,
It was
but
a
it was
mess,
still
but
fun.
it was still like I've watched it
Great character.
recently, and it's still,
I will follow up and see if I can find him.
You should.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I also want to. I want to
I'm
hear
thinking
about.
commentary with all of us in a room watching
Oh
Blade.
my gosh, that sounds
I want to hear
amazing.
all because I know him and Wesley didn't get along either. I
Oh,
mean,
man, those stories.
It's. I mean, Blade is a gem, and also Stephen Dorff in that movie is the MVP.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's a lot
so
of fun in that.
good.
One other thing is a plug for a book that Bekah mentioned a while ago, Mike Vaughan's Strange Cinema. I read the
you were
entire
reading
thing
it on the plane next to me.
because we were about to do our episode on
That's
weird movies.
a tome. How did you read the whole thing?
I kind of skim read
Skimmed
the
it.
ones that I had seen, but what I was doing it for was to find things, because we're always looking in the weird places, listening to shows like you guys are, for trying to find movies you haven't seen. I probably have about 30 or so marks on the book now.
Yeah, there was
and I'm
literally a dozen deer.
He was
what
just
do they
watching
call
me
it? Deer
going,
tags?
deer
Dog tag or
Dog
dog
tag.
ears.
Dog ears.
And I was like, geez, man. He's like, oh no, these are all ones I'm going to check
Yeah,
out.
so now I'm going to write them all up, and then I'll pass the book to the next person. But
awesome.
but I will say, glaring oversight on Mike Vaughan, and I did write to him. I said, no possession
Oh,
in that
of
book.
course.
Like of all, seriously, that would be the first one, and you would think of weird cinema. But
Elric invited Joe Bob Briggs to a possession date.
I did. Joe
was
Bob.
amazing.
Yep, we're going to do that. And let's just say before we end this one, our interview with Joe Bob, or our or hangout with Joe Bob, I guess is one of the most fun things we've gotten
Yeah.
to do. So
You can have him back on
So-
anytime.
I know.
Yeah.
we
You're
have to
going to
have
love
a
it.
Ryan. But
So-
did you see his tweet to us?
Yeah, he tweeted at us.
He said we asked hard
Started
questions.
following me. That's awesome.
But the
sorry.
big teaser for the episode is I got to the bottom of what aardvarking is in his references, and he would always go, "This film has some aardvarking, so don't worry, you will get to the bottom of aardvarking." That's all you need to know.
I will say I'm going to save my review until the week after we do the Chattanooga episode next week. I picked up Howling 7.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, we should watch it as a group.
That,
I
trust,
agree.
It comes up.
Wait,
You guys want to come
Howling
over
7,
and
yes.
watch Howling 7?
What is it on? How do you have
VHS. It's
Oh,
only
shit.
on VHS. It's not available
man.
on anything else. And actually, if you search Howling 7 and try to buy the VHS, or I'm sorry, it did come out on DVD limited, but they were like $175.
Okay. Don't
you can
do
get
that,
the
people.
VHS for about $100, but I searched for the international title and found it released under the international title on VHS on eBay, and I bought it for $9.
Nice. Save it.
So
Save it.
Howling 7.
Here's Joe Bob's tweets us immediately after the show. You guys are tough. Yes, questions that require actual answers with levels of detail known only to uber nerds. Someday we will look back at that interview and realize we have wasted our lives.
all caps, wasted our lives.
Yeah, because we went pretty deep cuts. But
he was pretty surprised, actually.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun. And also seeing his exploitation breakdown that he did for a couple hours. It's just
Incredible
it was like a total history lesson. It was so in depth. It was mostly set in pre-1950s movies.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of remarkable.
Yeah.
But what a cool dude.